Alright guys, well, I am hurting quite a bit, but I am in the tractor and I'm going to bale some round bales. I just got done raking and we're going to get some hay baled up. Alright, well, I don't know. Glasses on, glasses off. Hard to tell. So it is Wednesday, July 15th, and I'm round baling. So we have that, it's kind of a weird day. You know, sun-wise, we have the Canadian wildfires are causing it to, you know, kind of look cloudy. Kind of looks like it's going to rain, you know, but it's not supposed to rain. It's like a 4% chance of rain, something like that. So I'm round baling, and we'll talk about the why I'm sore part. So yesterday I square baled, and my goal is to square bale. You know, I don't know, kind of changes as the year goes on. You get a year like this where it's raining. It rained a lot earlier in the season. You know, stick. Let me jump out and get that stick. I'm gonna back up just a tad. Oh, there's more than one stick over here. Just a second. I'll be right back. Oh. Pretty good sized little stick there. Stick actually stood up right in front of the pickup. I don't know if it showed up on the camera like that or not, but actually was stopping the hay from going in the pickup on that side. So anyway, you know, when I start out the year, I actually have plans to do like a couple thousand square bales. And that's kind of my goal every year. And every year, you know, it changes as the year goes on. This year we had such a wet June. I mean, I never made a round bale till June 29th. That's the wrong gear. Accidentally put it in high instead of medium. So anyway, so as the year goes on, I'm like, okay, I'll just, you know, so I had it in my mind yesterday that, well, Sunday I kind of said, oh, if the weather's going to hold, we got Sunday through Thursday, 5 days in a row, no rain in the forecast. So I'm all right, well, if I put the hay down, give it a little extra time to dry, do some square bales. So I had it, my goal was to do 3 hay wagons, 3 kicker wagons. My goal was to do 3 loads a day, which if I get off the tractor and I stack a few bales on the wagon, you know, a couple of them I could probably get 150 without much trouble. And then the one wagon's a little bit smaller. So figure 300 to 350, maybe 400 bales. And if you get them unloaded and you got people to help and you get them unloaded and you have time, you could always do more. You know, it kind of depends on when you get the bale loaded I didn't have anybody to haul wagons, so that kind of put a damper on it, on that part. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll just load the 3 wagons and then I'll haul wagons down and we'll get the help to unload it. We have horse camp, so all the helpers, you know, they're basically all teenagers. They can stay after camp for a little while and help unload hay. So, wouldn't you know it, first wagon, I'm baling the first wagon, I got it about half full, and I thought, man, that wagon it seemed like the wagon was pulling hard. Which I was baling with the 966. I mean, it usually doesn't bother it. So I'm like, ah. And so when I get off, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna get off and check the bale, you know, see how the density is. I decided I was gonna adjust the density just a little bit. And wagon's got a flat tire. And I had just checked the tires. This was yesterday, Tuesday. I just checked all the tires on that wagon on Monday and went down and put air in. Actually put a little bit of air in all of them. So I'm like, well, we hadn't used that wagon last year. We didn't use that wagon. And so I'm like, well, I don't, you know, last thing I want to do is get a flat tire. Well, so got a flat tire. It was probably about 60 bales on it, half full or so. And you know, the other thing is when you're doing kicker wagons, when I'm doing kicker wagons, you know, sometimes you determine whether they're full or not based on the terrain. If you're on a hill or a side hill or something like that, you're probably not, I'm not going to fill them that full, right? I don't want my tractor to struggle to pull them with the baler up a hill, and I don't want to risk tipping them over on a side hill, stuff like that. But yesterday's field wasn't. The way it was, just a side hill, but on top it's more kind of levels off like a plateau. So I was gonna make it, so I actually made it so all the wagons were gonna get full when I was up on top. Anyway, so I baled baled the other 2 wagons full, hauled them down there, and started unloading. We got the second one almost unloaded. I was in the hay mow, and a couple people were helping me, and I was actually stacking underneath the elevator. We have a 36-foot Milo, basically a skeleton elevator. And I was stacking on the elevator to fill in a hole so we can, because I like to move out and up at the same time. You know, if you move too high up, it makes it hard to do a nice job. And you know, you got to keep your layers tight. If you got to fill in the holes to keep them tight so you can walk on. People don't understand how hard it is to walk on if you don't put them tight. And it's no big deal on, you know, the second or third layer. You get up 4 or 5 layers, if they're not stacked tight, and it makes it hard to walk on, it's a bigger deal. So I was filling in a hole, and the elevator fell right on me. And I was actually like, I don't know if I was kneeling down or just bent over, but my head was not straight up, you know. So it caught me right between the shoulder blades, was where I was hurt the most yesterday. And my head was down. I don't think it actually hit my head. I think my head was down enough that it pushed me down, pinned me underneath it, and there's a girl there that, she's pretty tough. She's actually in the Navy. She was there, and she actually was able to pick it up enough to get me out so I could get out from underneath it. But I couldn't move for, you know, it felt like a long time. It was probably maybe 20 seconds. But it pinned me in a very uncomfortable position, and I couldn't move. And of course the elevator was on, and luckily the chain, the leg that holds the elevator up, created enough gap between the chain and my back that it didn't, you know, the teeth of the chain didn't dig into me, or so it would have been going down across my back. So that was good. And so I went to the hospital and got all checked out, and I'm sore. I am sore. I thought I had broken ribs, but they did an x-ray, X-ray and a CAT scan. Doesn't show any broken ribs, but my right here, the bottom 3 or 4 ribs on my left side, or that's where I'm the most sore right now. My back does hurt, but right here bothers me more. And then my bottom, my left hip there, kind of bothers me today. Sleeping was hard. I did not sleep good. I actually sleep on my left side, so it hurts to sleep on my left side. It hurts to sleep on my back, and if I sleep on my right side, it bothers my knee. So I was probably up. I think I got home from the hospital about 11 o'clock, went to bed pretty much as soon as I got home. I was probably up about every hour during the night. They gave me some pain pills. I took one of them before bed. I think it's Tylenol with codeine. I know it's not Vicodin, but you know, if they said take some ibuprofen, and you know, gonna be sore for a while, that's all there is to it. There's nothing you can do about that, you know. I mean, what are you gonna do? So kind of ruined my plan, because this is decent hay right here. It's thin, but it's decent hay. It's good and dry. It was mowed, I think I might have mowed this Saturday. No, I got Sunday morning, so it's good and dry. It's not real thick. Nice hay. This little field here, or part of a field, whatever you want to call it. You know, probably would have been maybe one load right here. And we got one bale so far, but I kind of ruined then I have the next field down, mowed down, I have that raked too, that's ready to go. That's about 7 acres, so altogether probably about 8 or 9 acres. So should be able to get, I would have been able to get 3 loads probably at least. And then we could have unloaded 3 loads today, and could have decided, well, we're going to round bale the rest of that down there, or save it for tomorrow and do 3 loads. So the plan was to do 3 loads a day for 3 days in a row and get, you know, anywhere between 900 and 1,200 bales or something like that was pretty much the goal. But the elevator has a, you know, it's a skeleton elevator. I mean, they're all similar. What happened was the cable actually broke. I don't know. Well, actually, I don't know if it broke or if it pulled out. So it had 2. So it, you know, you crank the crank, and it basically pulls. It has, you know, legs like this, and it basically, they're like this. It basically pulls the legs closer together, and the elevator goes up. And so on the one end, it has a bar that the cable's around, and then there's 2 clamps on there. I don't know if it broke the loop off, whether it broke the loop off. Both clamps are still there. So I don't know whether it's hard to tell. I mean, it's definitely, the cable's frayed. But as I think about it, I'm not sure whether it broke the loop off and there's just no loop anymore, or if it managed to pull out of the 2 clamps. Pulling out of 2 clamps seems kind of hard to believe to me. I think it might have broke off, but we've had trouble with that elevator in the past. It's probably about the, I don't know how many times we had it fall down before when we were cranking it up. And if you let it down too far, it'll collapse. One time we let it down too far, it actually collapsed. There was no stopping it. So I have a fix in mind. I think, you know, got a couple ideas. One idea is to make it so you crank it up, but then you have a leg that you stick in there. Because we don't really adjust the height. You know, we're putting in the beef barn, we get the height where we want it. We usually don't have to adjust the height. So I thought about, well, if you crank it up and then you have a leg that you just stick in there that goes up underneath the one part and down on the axles out of a piece of pipe, or it doesn't have to be anything, it does not have to be anything fancy. Piece of pipe or whatever, something strong enough that has a notch in it or whatever. Could be just a piece of pipe with two two Y's, a Y on each end, and you just crank it up and stick it in there, and maybe have like a, I don't know, a bungee strap or something so it won't fall out. So you crank it up past that, then just lower it down to it. That might work. Or, the fancy one would be have one that had on the bottom had multiple steps, and as you cranked it up, you clicked it in a step or whatever. Kind of like a sort of like a high lift jack, kind of, or not like a high lift, like a kind of like a high lift jack, but something where it just goes in a notch. But I looked at it this morning, and the cable, so basically you have to let out the winch far enough to get the cable. The cable looks like it's long enough. And I had replaced the cable on the winch. I went and bought it's actually a boat winch, and it's actually I think it's it's at least 2 inches, if not wider. Basically heavy duty ratchet strap type material, and that's what the winch is instead of using a cable. And I think it's rated for 3,000 pounds. So I think I put that on there two years ago. It actually works pretty well. But I looked at it just for a few minutes today, and I think the cable will reach if you let the winch out a little bit. But part of the strap, there's a little piece of the strap that's actually pinched in between the two pieces on the elevator, and I couldn't pick it up by myself to get it out of there. And it was actually frayed just a little bit, so I didn't want to pull it, and I wanted to fray it more. So I decided to let that go for today. But last time it fell down, we left it in the barn, and we used the barn rafters to pick it up and put it back together how it goes. But we had a half a load of hay to do, and with a bunch of kids around, it's like, well, they're not really going to be much. I was hurting at that point too. They're not going to be able to put it back together by themselves without me to tell them how to do it, because I've done it before. And we had a half a load of hay, and I'm like, well, so we actually just dragged it out of there, dragged it right out of the barn, and unloaded the last half a load. And just carried. I got the wagon as close as I could, and we just carried them from the wagon into the mound. That's the only downfall. There's other ones probably, but that's one downfall with our beef barn is it's a bank barn, and you just can't. You have the ground slopes up to go to the door, and you can't get a wagon very close to it at all. And the hay mow floor is not strong enough to hold the tractor, so you can't just pull the tractor in. And being that kind of a grade, you could back it up in there, I guess, but if you don't have a back tailgate, that wouldn't do you any good either. And it would probably take me a long time to be able to back it up that kind of grade straight. The grade would just fight you the whole time. So anyway, that's a project. I'm going to look at it, and I would like to get it fixed. I'd like to. I've got probably another 12 or so acres that I could do tomorrow. Same thing, it's not the greatest hay, but it's good and dry, and it would make pretty nice square bales. but I have to get the elevator put back together. I'm not going to do 3 loads, you know, one by one by hand. So I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's some streaks in this field that didn't get cut, and that's because it's thin hay. And when you go downhill, on thin hay with the disc bind, at least my disc bind, it'll always miss some. I have another property that I do that the hay's thin on the one field, and it does the same thing. Almost right in the middle of the disc bind, it'll leave a streak where it doesn't cut. Now, if I tilted my head down, it would probably do it, but I've only ever mowed with the head tilted down, maybe not even a handful of times. It's never been quite worth it to me, where, yeah, it gets just a little bit more grass, but you hit more rocks, you know, ruts. Right here's like a little bit of a dead furrow, woodchuck holes, whatever. It's never been quite worth it to me to tilt it down, especially for first cutting, because you're just cutting it shorter, and that's however much more it's got to grow to be tall enough for second cutting, you know. So I have mine on 3 inches, whatever the shoes are on, and I just mow, and I still hit rocks and woodchuck holes, just, you know. But tilting it, you know, it has the 2 stages. You can tilt it just a little bit, or you can tilt it all the way by taking the pin out of the cylinder. I've never run it tilted all the way. I've only ever let it just tilt to the first spot, and it's not worth it. I know somebody one time that tilted theirs all the time, and they went through a lot more. They go through a lot more knives than I do. I haven't changed a knife all year so far. I'm sure there's probably a couple that are ready to be changed, but they're still cutting. So since I don't tilt and everything, I think I go through a lot less knives. You know, you go buy a box of right-hand blades, a box of left-hand blades, and some bolts and nuts to put them on with, and you're like $300 easy. So I don't tilt it, but I think this little spot out here, we might. It's got a lot of brush down in the one corner over here. There's a couple of trees that fell down. It's like what, 1, 2, 3, about 5 trees that fell down. It's just this little spot. 5 trees that are down. That made it really hard to make this corner over here square. So I think we get the hay off, and we're going to bring the skid steer out here. We're going to push all these trees back in the woods. There's a couple of this over here. It's actually a couple of logs that somebody skidded out and just left there. They're just sitting there rotting. So I think I'll bring the skid steer out here, and we'll clean up all the edges. Maybe do a little brush hogging. I'd like to have a brush hog for the skid steer, but man, those heavy duty ones, look, they're quite the machine, but man, are they expensive. Get the brush cleaned up and cut a whole bunch of limbs and get this all nice, and then come out here and spread manure and plow it. You know, I could plow this, and it wouldn't take me very long at all to plow it, and I could seed it back. It gets wet down on the end down here. You can see where when down on the end, the field's gotten probably 30 feet smaller because of trees that fell down that you can't mow around. There's not even enough room to maneuver the disc bind around them to get closer to the edge. So that just helps more crap grow up that you can't mow. So I'd like to get that all done. And it sucks because it's probably like an hour's worth of brush hogging, but take you 5 minutes to mow it with the disc bind, you know. I don't have no big bat wing. Boy, those things are expensive, aren't they? Holy moly. I bet they're 30, some of them are probably 30 grand now. I just have a little, I think it's a 4-foot woods that my dad got probably 40 years ago. I'd love to have one for the, problem with the skid steer is now, you know, they got the heavy duty ones and they got the regular ones. The heavy duty ones are, you know, they'll cut thick brush and everything. Some of them actually do a little bit of mulching just by the way they cut, but then when you go to cut weeds with them, it doesn't do as good a job because the blades are different. It's like, well, I don't really want to buy, but the skid steer, having it in front of you, or having one on the back that's offset or a bat wing is about the best, you know, best ways you could do it. If I buy one for the skid steer, it's like heavy duty one will cut the brush, but doesn't do as good a job on just grass or weeds. And there's not a whole lot of videos out there on, I was looking at Bobcat, there's not a whole lot of videos for Bobcat specific brush cutters. I know Eric at 4M Ranch, he did a video with his brush cutter, which was a brush cat, which is the one that you would use to cut weeds and small stuff. And it looks like a pretty nice mower. There was one for sale on Marketplace, but they're a lot cheaper than the heavy duty one. But then how big of stuff will it cut, right? You want to get the one that's going to make it, you know, do the job and make it nice and clean looking, not, you know, leave it all raggedy looking. But this will be a nice little section to do. We have quite a bit of land here that we really need to do some seeding, but it's hard to do. I mean, you got to spread manure and plow and disc, and then you got to seed it. I mean, it take, you know, I don't know what's that, the minimum of 3 good days to do that. You know, I mean, I could probably plow about 4 or 5 acres an hour, and probably could disc about twice that, and then probably could seed about 4 or 5 acres an hour or something like that. But and the other thing is, when do I get that kind of time, and when do I actually get decent weather during that kind of time? It doesn't happen very often. I got the field over there. I plowed half of the field on the other side there that I call the wet field. Plowed half of that last year. My neighbor sprayed it. I plowed half of it last June. The other half was so wet I couldn't even touch it. And I haven't seeded yet. And the other half is sitting there. And of course, this year has been even more wet. I'd like to get that done at some point. Luckily, I don't need the hay. It was a pretty good hay field, but it just got where it had a lot of ruts and stuff in it. And because it's always wet. But if you get a dry, you know, a decent summer for doing hay, it produces quite a bit of hay. But I know the girls at the barn they want to get the barnyards cleaned out for the horses, which sounds easy enough to do, but you go in there and you start digging around with a tractor, get the manure, you're gonna get rocks, and you cannot come out here and spread rocks on a field that you're gonna do hay off of, because the disc bind does not like rocks. You know, no hay bind likes rocks. And if you're not gonna plow them under, you know, and then if you take the manure out and pile it somewhere, then you have even more rocks. You know, you got to have a plan. You got to be like, all right, I'm going to clean, and I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take the manure out and pile it somewhere, and then maybe, oh, I'll spread it someday. If I'm taking it out, I'm loading it on the spreader, and I'm going to go spread it. But then I've got to be ready to come out and plow and do some seeding. I know the one paddock has quite a bit of manure. Well, you know, the other thing is that nobody moves the round bale feeder either. And when I'm feeding round bales in the wintertime, you know, after school or whatever, it takes me, you know, an hour or 2 hours to feed round bales. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to take the time to move the round bale feeder. If somebody else can't do it, then I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to take the time to move it all the time. And you got to have them close enough to the fence that you can drop a bale in there. And they're always like, oh, well, we'd like to have the bales farther away from the fence. Well, then you have somebody there to open up the gate. And it never works. I don't care what it never works out that, you know, people are not there to open up the gate for me. I can open up the gate for the cows and not a problem. You open up the gate for the horses, sure enough, one of them will run right out. Because they're used to coming out the gate to go in the barn and be rode and worked with. Whereas the cows are, I mean, once in a while, I don't know, you know, maybe once a year the cows will get out while you're feeding bales, but usually they don't even go near the gate because they're not used to it. But too bad couldn't be square bale in this. Decent, you know, it's a decent amount of hay. Would have been 3 loads, would have been nice to get. Cruising around in the old round baler. So on Sunday, I wasn't sure what the plan was, but my daughter, Lainey's playing All-Stars for softball, and they canceled practice on Friday because it's supposed to rain. So they wanted to have practice on Sunday, and I'm not sure what the reasoning was, but they picked 4 o'clock Sunday for practice. And so I was like, well, I got hay to do. And so I actually got my brother-in-law, got a hold of him, and I said, hey, you come round bale for me? And he said, yeah, I'll come round bale for you. You got to show me how. So he rode with me. I made 2 bales. I said, you got it? And he's like, oh, yeah. No big deal. So he baled, and that gave me time to mow. And I actually mowed that morning, Sunday morning, then I mowed the next field while he was round baling. And I got that done. And then that kept me from having to go out and mow later after practice. I'm like, I don't really want to, you know, I'm not going to feel like going out and mowing after practice. So that was good. It's his first time round baling. He did fine. It's not that hard. It's a little boring. But that's the first help that I've had to do anything other than put square bales in this year, which is fine. Most of the time it's not a big deal. It's just time consuming. You know, yesterday was about, I don't know what, it's supposed to be 100 degrees. I think it actually was over 100. I know it's 98 at one time. I don't remember ever. I think I only checked the weather once. It said 98. So, you know, if I'm out raking on the other tractor, you know, with just the ropes, no canopy, no nothing, it's hot. In here, you know, I got the air conditioning on. If I get out, it's hot. But shouldn't have to get out too much. So we're going to move on down the next field. I think it's about 7 acres. I call it the trapezoid field. And we'll get that baled up. Then we'll call it a day. Lainey's got softball practice. Then we'll rake up the next field. Down there's 4 acres. Then we got probably about 7 or 8 acres over by the pond. We'll rake that up tomorrow. We'll bale that tomorrow. I don't know if we're gonna mess with the elevator or not. I'd like to. I probably will check the forecast. Maybe it's supposed to rain Friday, but I'm not sure if it's like afternoon, early evening rain, or if it's all day rain. I don't know anything other than the fact that it says like 80% chance of rain. And there's actually I think there was a chance of rain all weekend. Of course, Laney has a softball tournament. Well, that'll mess that up. But anyway, we're going to continue baling. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping in. Please like and subscribe to this video and stay tuned for more from Triple D Farms, Triple D Maple, and Triple D Cabins. I'm Jared. Have a great day.